Oh,
I'm gonna call him this week because he's busy.
call him Friday. Or, yeah, call him Friday.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah.
He's not even in town.
When you're ready to
Oh.
actually get started,
That's
so
why he said.
just because you
Oh.
gotta read, because I was playing over here, so anytime you want to click with her, you don't use that.
Because I've had
So you
people
can click
tell
and then
me,
go
oh,
backwards.
call me in a month or whatever.
Okay.
I know, right? Tech. All right, guys, welcome. So glad to see your faces here today. All right, so we are going to get started with Chris Locke. So Chris, you have been with KW for
Almost 2 years. It'll be
Almost?
2 years in May.
2 years in May, and you have been in real estate for several years heading into that.
This will be my 8th year.
8 years within real estate. I think if anybody was at the Vision Breakfast, you heard that he was doing about 7 million in
Yeah, we
volume
were in that 7 to 9 and the other.
at the other place that we
Yeah,
are not
other place.
speaking of because we're not cyber bullies.
Yep.
Yes, so, and then when he came over here, he engaged in the systems, did the models, the systems, all the good stuff. And now you are sitting happily at about
Last year we did just over 17. so
17, right? So,
The first year over here was just over 12.
yeah,
So,
huge.
Yeah.
Huge. So I would say it was a good move for you then.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He also sat on our ALC last year, and this year he's focusing on business, right? But we roped him in to coming and teaching class today, and we're very excited to hear. Again, guys, we're wrapping up Ignite. We've got today, tomorrow, and then a makeup on Monday. So I really hope that you're leaning into the activities that they're talking about, and you're learning all of the things that are to learn. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you, and I do know some of you have that 1 o'clock thing, so we've prepped him. He's not gonna cry publicly when you
Like, oh,
leave.
man.
It'll be fine, it'll be fine. So without further ado,
All right.
here you
All
go.
right, guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Chris Locke. My phone number's up there. I would encourage you all, like, put in your phone. I'm always available to help. You'd be amazed what you need at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. You just have to do it. So please don't ever hesitate to call me. So start out with the daily success system. Let's see here. This is also my first time teaching this portion of this course. We've done some of the command classes in the past, command, DocuSign, things like that. I'm decent at it, but definitely not, I mean, a year and a half in, there's still a lot to learn. Definitely happy to see that Nicole has taken on the tech trainer role. I mean, be able to utilize that. There's so much stuff online. So we have some success stories and challenges with the daily success system.
I'm still here, you guys gotta start.
Yeah. Everybody wrote 10 note cards, right?
No, because I only see 2 people gave me note cards, so
That's such an important one. We do that all the time.
is the handwritten cards a challenge for some of you? And it's okay if it is, right? What makes it a challenge? Is it that you don't know who to write to, or you don't know what to say?
Hand cramp.
I will do hand massages later,
Yeah,
only if you can write a lot.
It does make a big difference, though. That's one of the ones that I definitely embrace. I try to put new contacts in as we get them. I try to make all the touch points, the connections. If you look at my command right now, it's not going to show you that I've got, which I also need to be able to access my command for part of this.
Do you know your command password and all that? Cool,
No, Onward does.
cool.
Okay,
I'll be back.
okay, all right.
Engage.
So that is, I mean, it's important. I know it's tough to hit all those marks, but I do feel that especially the handwritten note cards and I mean, a touch point can be anything. It can be, Facebook, an email, just connecting with people is what's important. So what about accountability partner? Everybody, of course, had that meeting, right? So, oh, no. Okay. Any successes, anything, ahas from working with accountability? My group. That's a hard thing too. So I remember when we were in Bold, which if you haven't taken Bold, you need to go through that process. It puts you out of your comfort zone. It definitely has some really good information, and it forces you to do things like the phone calls and the touch points, all those things that are tough, but there's accountability partners in that too. And it usually starts off really, really strong, and then, like week like 8, and then it starts to, and here we are, session 19. It starts to be a little bit more sparse, so. Well, we'll get into our next session. So getting to the close, it's very important because you want to get paid to do this, right? I mean, it's fun, but we're in a business where we do all of this work and it could fall apart at the last minute. So we're going to try today to make sure that we point out all the deadlines in the contract, anything that we need to be doing to secure buyers, secure sellers' interest in this to make it get from point A to point B. So that's what these timelines are up behind me. You've got a handout, or it's in your guide as well. But we'll go through all this here shortly. Getting to the close, or coordinate the sale to closing is one of the 6 core competencies. So it's that important that it's included as one of the top 6 things that we need to be able to do. We're going to develop the transaction timelines, apply the best practices to avoid risk, and then identify ways to follow up after closing to build the business. That's one of the things that I struggle with probably the most, is that we have a fantastic transaction. Everything goes so smooth, give them the closing gift, and then I didn't ask for the review, or I, didn't do the follow-up, because that will help you build your business. I mean, you catch them when they've had that great experience, get that review. So we'll get into that though more here shortly. Okay, and as far as getting to the close, we're going to talk about people involved. All that is coming, but we're going to take 5 minutes to get you all together, 2 tables, whatever you'd like to do, and come up with some questions that you'd like to specifically get answered in this process. Anything that you might be confused about with the contract. This isn't a broker's contract class. We're going to hit on a lot of those type things. So if you've been in Don or Jim's classes, there might be some overlap here. I'm going to look at it from more of a perspective of how I would do it, how I go about my contract. I talked to Shanna, there was several different contracts that you've been working with in the process. I told her we'll just work from one of mine that just recently closed and go through the timeline and kind of chart everything from there. So we'll take 5 minutes and need a couple questions.
So we have. I would like personally. Pay for something in contact. Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah, I have a positive opinion. So I've never showed someone I use their personality and before I showed one.
Well, I mean, there's just lots of different things.
Right, constantly bugging the list.
So you got the deal.
You got the buyer. You got the lender, title company. Yeah, it's like you're all of all the hats.
Once we get to a contract.
You can kind of help show us. We'll go through.
So that's great. Because I was really excited about that.
Just, even pitfalls.
It's easy to.
Surveys. Where they'll come up and things like that.
Yeah.
It's rare. Title work.
And even then, showing sellers and the buyers.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. So.
It's like you're so close to like an agreement on both sides.
Yeah, right.
Of any
Like
on
on your own.
Onward.
Being able to see that.
And you're just like, Amy's like, I don't even think we can get. Dealing with it, right there.
There's a. Yeah.
We had
Well,
a
and it's
client,
we get this filled up out of here.
but,
And then
you
you
know,
contracts, there's
they did not.
set
They-
expirations.
Sellers
I think
were not gonna move
all
until that morning.
We're gonna look at it.
Like we wanted to move in that
We're
morning,
not changing.
but we were gonna close this afternoon.
Maybe she.
And I'll tell you
Somebody
what,
on that
and I'm-
area,
it's
or
already-
whether they didn't deal so they couldn't move out, or started right, physically whether it was and weather issues. Exactly. So they couldn't do anything because the company doesn't have liability for their employees if something happens. to them. They pay for the coverage to be there, that kind of thing. The company at that point is saying, no, we are not operating today. So I've never had that one. She was so mad. There was something, nobody was told, and then she was like, well, I already
So, I mean, I've never.
I had a fire.
stores and they're gonna bring it.
I tell her, I was the reason. this is gonna
Hey,
take
and
some time.
also, rented a truck.
So if it didn't close on time, this is the house that's your fault. If the lender asks you for a disclosure.
You're like, this is the company's choice and I can't.
Yeah,
It
and
sucks.
she brought her lawyer. So the sellers as well as the they didn't close it. She
That's
didn't
what
sign
I told her, I
everything.
said,
Yeah.
"You
She wanted
Just
money.
life cycle of
She
that.
wanted $1,500.
Lender was.
And it sometimes like.
Appraisers.
I said it
Yeah, so what does that do? Standard, you know, they just timeline deal, so we're.
She's not like-
25 days, it doesn't raise, we can
Here's
extend it out,
$500.
then they-
So what we did.
All those things.
Because I felt my gift.
We'll go-
I got.
It was gonna be like. I've actually given you $500 towards your inconvenience.
You'll get it.
How would you feel about it? Yeah, how would that make you feel? Great, that'd be truly a gift of mine. So that's where I'll be too. Yeah.
Don't bother trying to. I want to learn, but you right now have the answer.
But at the end of the
Right, and he, and I
Wasn't
realized
it?
that like a he said, you know,
Yeah,
I have
the big
friends that
fear is
work
that
with
she was renting an apartment and I
I
think
was
she had
actually
her
in
apartment.
insurance.
So there was,
And,
no, she's not gonna be homeless.
Right.
Still trying to sell their clients. Like,
That's so great.
no, we want you to.
Yeah.
sign
And
it.
if
Real estate. too.
usually once I was in an issue, and I do, I'd be like, again, what is your daily overage? Like, if you have on the 31st, and we have to buy one more day with the tenants, like with
But they
the landlord. Well, definitely, it's not like $5 a day. I would much rather make an agreement with the tenant or the landlord and say, yeah, I would be happy to pay for an additional day. Physically, not do you. Like, I'm so sorry. And they probably wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Like, just get her out and make sure her house is clean, right?
And she's saying her apartment says like Royal Court on like where Texas Courthouse.
Yes, yeah, Royal.
Yeah,
You
and
could probably
maybe,
call TLC and ask them.
well, the thing is,
I
like,
think
she had to leave until a certain date, and that's when her lease is gonna end, so she did have.
I would have, see, I would have almost like
We do
called
it
for
again.
an
I get their emails, so.
I'm working with a client,
That's a tough
and they're thinking they have to be out.
The guy in St. Joe.
Is there any way you can share with me the true move out date that they will now be penalized for? Or what that implication is like to you? Like, is it 30-day penalty for an additional day? Because we're having some problems on closing days.
Yeah.
And you just
That is-
are kind and nice.
And then I was in,
If I called you and you had a receptionist, wouldn't you be like,
and that guy called.
okay, yeah, I'm showing that she's supposed to be out on the 31st. If we had to charge an additional day, it'd be $35. Whatever.
Deal, you know, but at the end of the day, she signed papers, that sellers made her
Yeah, we still have to.
How many?
And he was always big.
And they're truly unhappy. It's
And
sad.
she was like, the funniest person ever. It was like out of
I was
nowhere.
doing that, I said, go in and fold, we go in together.
Like,
And you're like,
the sellers had like a piece of flag outside, like out of the window, like a this one. Yeah, yeah. So we were just talking, we went to her house, like whenever she.
So I was actually glad he called me, because I was that close to that.
So she was in the window, she said. And she was screaming and I was just like.
None of them.
Yeah, and I was like, actually, if you want, I can just be like, it might be really easy just to remove it, like, do you want to go outside? I'll help you with it.
Right.
And she's like, that needs to go. Like, yeah, I asked him so much to know that.
Maybe I
You know,
am. I said.
I was like,
And he said,
You're
yeah.
like, surely that's not their intention. Like, you just have to like calm down.
yeah, she was so.
Okay, guys, what questions we got?
Sorry.
I got
What do you
one.
want
I
to
got
know?
one. That's gonna be a good one. Have you ever had to personally pay for something or reduce a commission in order to get the deal closed? Like forget to order the warranty or buy a refrigerator?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all have to, at one time, buy a refrigerator. Just hope it's not real early on, 'cause that stings a little worse than a couple deals in. But yeah, absolutely. So it's our job to make sure everything's included in there, to make sure we're not missing stuff like that. The home warranty deal, you know, I don't do a lot of home warranties anymore. Especially not over the past couple of years, because it's another thing, right? But certainly, I mean, one of the most recent ones where it came really close, we had a property, I had the buyers, they were buying a lake house down in Shell Knob. And they absolutely did not want that hot tub to be left there. And so we go down there on closing day, it's an hour and 20 minutes or so, and hot tub's still there. So I text the agent, I'm like, this is not supposed to be here, what are we gonna do? She said, don't worry, we're gonna get it out of there. And so we said, okay, and I, you know, at that point, you tell your clients that, okay, if you sign this right now, I mean, all we have is a text message to go on. So at that point, I knew that either she's gonna hold true to her word, or make it on the blacklist, if I, you know what I mean? Or I'm gonna be probably paying $500 down the road to get this thing gone. I don't want to drive back down to Shell Knob to close this thing. I'll risk it, you know? So it took about a month and a half to get them to follow through with what they said they were going to do, but we did it. But things like that happen a lot. I'm not a broker. To that, it's black and white, but there's so much gray area. So, yeah. Have you ever bought?
Oh, yeah, like, that's why, like, to me, it's good to hear that this is a normal thing
Oh,
and
yeah.
even perfect transactions
Yeah.
are not perfect.
We're in one right now. My clients are the buyers, a little bit difficult. It took almost a month to get to the negotiation to actually get this place under contract. It had been sitting there. We worked on it. We finally got a tough buyer, tough seller to the point of contract. So we got the numbers right. We did our inspections. I knew the hot water heater was going to be shot. It came up in the inspection shot. We asked for 2 or 3 things to be fixed, that being one of them. And I told my clients, hey, be ready. They're going to come back probably with money, because we were wanting to move this thing up. We're going to try to close it in a week, and they're not going to want to mess with this. So that's exactly what happened. They came back with 1,500. My people said, well, we think it's at least going to be 2,000. So we want 2,500. I said, okay, well, if we do 2,500, I think that we're probably closer to 2,000. Let's try to do the 2,500. I think we'll meet in the middle. It's exactly what happened. And the conversation I had with the other agent was, okay, go back to your guy that says 1,500. My people are okay with 2,000, and we're not going to let this deal die for $500. So, and he agreed. So at that point, we're working together to get this thing done. And if both sides want to have a stalemate, that's fine. They'll pay $250, I'll pay $250, because we're not going to start over. So those things happen. Absolutely. So it was good. Anybody else?
Reviewing title work.
Reviewing title work. Yeah, that's fun. So title companies are required in our contract to send us the title work within 10 days. 10 days after receipt of the contract. So that should be on your to-do list, right? As soon as you get under contract, it needs to go to the lender, it needs to go to title, make sure that they are getting the ball rolling. So right now, it's not taking long at all to get title work. You can get it back sometimes in a day or two. Year and a half ago, that was totally different. So there was plenty of times where they were missing the mark. They were 12, 13, 14 days out. which kind of messes stuff up. That's another area where that didn't kill any deals, but it is defaulting on the contract. But when you get the title work, you're supposed to share it. You're supposed to send it to your clients. You're supposed to review it. It's not a compliance thing, but if you go through there, it's going to have property address, legal description, who it is, who it's conveying to. The big portion is section B. That's going to be exceptions. That's where you're going to find if there's any dirty laundry out there. So you got any tax liens, mechanics liens, all the easements, encroachments, things like that are going to be in there. That's something that if you see any red flags like that, you need to address it. So you have 20 days from receipt of the title company to actually bring that up and say, hey, we're not okay with this. So technically it's the same way with survey too. So surveys, the way I handle surveys going into a contract is not, I don't really like the way that that's worded in there. So it's usually in special agreements that buyer and seller to both agree on perform survey. So that way we eliminate the worry about a timeline. And it's really just gonna have to come down to when can we get that survey guy out there and actually get it. So best luck I've ever had is usually getting them out there in 20, 25 days. Then they need a week to do it, like draw it up and everything. So, but that's, it depends on where you're operating, I guess. We do a couple of those a year, not a lot of surveys. It's good. Anybody else? Good, okay. Okay, Gary Keller says real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. That's true. If you don't pay attention to the details, you're probably gonna get in trouble and you could have a financial risk to either your buyer or seller. Okay, just as getting a lead doesn't make the person your client. Getting under contract definitely doesn't mean a closing is going to happen. There's lots of different things that are going to happen along the way. We're going to identify lots of ways that the deal could fall apart. Hopefully, a lot of these things, and I listened in Cassie's class and in some of Elise's class. I didn't stay all day yesterday online, but they both talked about taking care of this stuff before you're even under contract. So there's ways to see those problems before you actually get there, whether that be inspection, appraisal related. I got stories for all of these things, but yeah. But you can guys, everybody's information's out there on the internet. You can know exactly what your buyers seem like, at least on the surface, by looking on Facebook. You can find out court records on them. You can do, there's ways to get a lot of information out there anymore. So as far as inspections, when I go up to a property, I drive up, let's just take the roof for example. If I drive up and the roof's got black streaks all the way down it, all the way across them, okay? It's probably 15 years old, probably somewhere around there. If I look, I could see some wind lift on the shingles, or the ridge cap's got a piece missing, or the soft metals up there have pretty significant dents in there. That's probably a good sign there's hail. If it's sunny day and the fiberglass is starting to show through, we're probably going to need a roof, more than likely. So that's something like down the line, if you want to make sure that you're covered there. If I was the listing agent, would I have probably already saw that too? I don't know if I advised my client to get a roof and then now tell the world it's shot, but I would say, hey, this is something that could come up, if they didn't want to go ahead and try it. But once you're under contract, if I was going to schedule inspections there, I would also schedule a specialist to be out there at the same time. A roofer would be out there at the same time as the inspector, and then I don't have to have that specialist period down the road, which is another 5-day extension to the inspection period. We'll get to more of that though. But there's little things like that you can see it's a problem. You can look at do a CMA on a property that is being bought. If it's overpriced or not. I feel like the appraisal. So one thing you can do, with you should do a CMA. You should know where the market is. If you're in enough properties, you're gonna know, you're gonna feel it anyways. You're gonna know if something's high, low, good deal, bad deal, based on what you think, what you're used to, what you keep coming across. So the more that you're out there and actually seeing this stuff, it's gonna help you. Back to the appraisal deal, it's, that's a safeguard in the contract for the buyer. So you can say, listen, if they think they're overpaying for it, be like, hey, an individual third party is gonna have to assess this. And if it is low, then we're gonna ask them to drop the price. If they won't drop the price, maybe we'll meet in the middle. And if they won't meet in the middle and you just really love it, then you bring cash. So those things are all stuff we can talk about before we actually end up having to have a much harder conversation down the road. Let's see here. Oh yeah, in past sold MLS disclosures, it amazes me. A property that sold 2 years ago and you see the disclosures this year, they could have easily just printed. I mean, they know what's there. So it's like investor properties. It could have been a total dump and they didn't know anything about it. They fixed these things, but they knew that mold was disclosed back here. There's a paper trail that you can find stuff out on. Has anybody ever sold their own home? Yeah. What was the process like after you got in a contract? What was the process like?
That was when we moved from St. Joe to here. So I had listed it myself up there at my old office.
Oh, okay.
That was the case. Is that not what you wanted to hear? Oh,
No, it's more on the communication of the agent, but I bet you communicate well with yourself.
I always have. I've been one of the best.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I sold 2 houses with my husband. So if you're talking about communication, like I had to communicate with him because he is a very detail oriented person. He is the client that wants to know the why and the how behind everything, right? So my communication had to be on point and I had to explain things and it was hard for me because I was like, just trust me, I know what I'm doing. And I had to explain things as if it was telling somebody for the first time, but because I'm his wife, he questioned everything I had to say. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and a lot of times agents don't communicate. You went through all the work and you got under contract and, hooray, and we'll see you at the closing table. We'll let you know when we get inspections and that kind of thing. You need to be able to communicate what the expectations are, what we need them for, how fast they need to respond. All that being on top of it is going to be what keeps us on track. So let's see. Yeah, we've got a lot of people that work together to make the closing happen. It's not just the people that you see on the surface here with the agents and the buyer seller. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to be drafting. I should probably be clicking through this. I thought I was a clicker person, but okay, what I understand, we've been using different contracts kind of throughout this. So we're going to look at a contract that we just closed a couple weeks ago to kind of plot out the different timelines here within the contract. So who knows what kind of click over here? I'll do it. Maybe. Drag this over. I'm sorry.
No. You keep talking.
I chair the tech committee, but I'm not very good at that. Okay, so here's the deal that we had closed. There's a couple little curveballs to this one, and we'll just kind of embrace it as we go. But what kind of timelines do we have in the contract? Everybody knows we've got the inspection timeline. Put that right here. What other timelines are within the contract? And
The close date,
close date?
the specialist report,
Yep. When do we need a specialist report?
but then has to be like, so if it's default, it's 10 days to inspect. And then specialist is additional 5 days after that.
If you need it. And I'll tell you what, back to the inspections. So 10 days is, in my opinion, 10 days is enough time to get an inspector out there and get things figured out. If you know what you're looking for, you already know if we're gonna need a specialist or not. So, but the nice thing is, you don't have to cloud up the contract on the offer with saying, hey, we need 15 days or we need 20 days to do an inspection. You can get it within the 10 days and something is needed. I don't know if I've ever had an inspection report that didn't have the word specialist in there somewhere. As long as they say the word specialist, all you do is send over a notice for 5 more days. So you can essentially always get 15 days, nearly all the time. So they just have to say the word specialist. And that's kind of what the other day I was mentioning about getting with your inspector, telling him what the concerns are, send them the disclosures, show them what's there. I mean, the more information you can give them, the better, honestly. Okay, that's good. This is our close. This is our deal. How about title work? Title work in 10 days? Okay.
Where's mine?
Earnest money. What's the contract say for earnest money?
5 days.
5 days, okay.
Appraisal.
Appraisal? How many days we get to do appraisal?
I don't even know. I
Does it
think
say
each,
25?
I think each bank
25,
makes it up.
25, yeah. What about financing?
Mhm.
Matches appraisal. I know there's agents out there that don't like to hear this, but this is my opinion on appraisal and financing. Is that if it doesn't check out on price and they can't get the money for it, they can't buy it. Almost all of my deals, unless we've got a short close time, are gonna say, under special agreements, financing and appraisal contingencies to carry through to closing date. That way we're covered. Because even if we had a 30-day close, we're gonna get our 3-day window for the settlement statement at the end of that, we're still vulnerable for a couple of days, really. And they can't get out of it. So you just open yourself up to problems. So, okay, what about, so we got title work in 10 days, and we've got 20 days to review that. And it also includes a survey, if you have a survey. So that's not much time to do a survey. It's plenty of time to get title work done, but not much time to do a survey, which is a lot of times why I would split out the survey in here. Let's see. So we covered, so this is the actual deal that we just did. See, we remember the kitchen refrigerator, which is good. Talk about where we're closing. It's got the appraisal contingency. The inspection in there. Okay, once we deliver the inspection notice, so we're gonna do the inspection notice within 10 days. And then how many days do we have to have a resolution?
5.
10. Yeah, 10 days. So we have a 10-day resolution period. So let's say that falls somewhere right around here. Okay. And during that 10-day resolution period, you've got the opportunity to have the seller and buyer come to an agreement, go back and forth, renegotiate. Buyer could ask for stuff and they could drop it at the very end, keep the deal alive. So that was, we'll get to that one actually. That's another story. Let's see here. We've also got towards the end here, you have up to 4 days prior to close to do the walkthrough. Let's see here, what else? Am I missing?
Data period, I guess, first 5 days.
The property data period? Yep. So. Okay. Property data, okay. Let's see. See if we're missing any. We got property data, inspection notice. Does everybody understand capitulation? within the contract. So under the inspection period, this is our 10-day window. We have a list of stuff that we want done. We send it over to the other side. That other side can sit on it till the 11th hour. And they can either accept it, or if they don't want to accept it, send that 11th hour, then we can retract, say, forget it. That's the capitulation. We're just gonna eat all the costs of this and we're gonna keep the deal alive. If they were to allow it to expand beyond that 10-day period, then the deal would die. So the other way around that is you send it over and the seller sends back a complete rejection. Nope, not doing it. Well, the deal will die in 2 days if you don't retract right then. So it's really a process to speed it up at that point. So put that in here just in case they get. Oh, didn't spell that right. That's okay. Let's see. A lot of these things are stuff you're not gonna have to deal with often. Most of it's gonna be appraisal, financing and inspections. So, okay. All right. I'll try to. It's back over here. Shannon, I did it. Are you proud? Wait.
Click on it with the mouse.
Oh, yeah, I kind of did. Okay. Okay. So the transaction's gonna touch many hands before it's all done. So we're gonna make a list of everybody that you think might be involved in the process from start to finish. I work with your partners, small group. Write down all the people that you think might be involved in a transaction from start to finish. We'll go ahead and put down the easy ones, the buyer, seller, and agents.
Yeah, title, bankers, assistants, like processors.
Attorney depending on the case.
Yeah, you could, yeah. I think I'm not gonna have to go back to that contract, so.
Yeah, and then your hands once over there, so you'll just pull it
Pull it
over.
over,
Yeah,
okay.
just like make sure it, you know how.
But then you can work on it from right here.
It'll pull over
Yeah.
right there.
But
Yes.
typing will work, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll be back there.
Okay, thank you.
Be kind.
The appraiser has to. And do it. Same with inspector.
City permit.
TC.
City permit. Occupancy permit.
Who we got so far? Anybody?
Lender.
Lender, oh yeah. Good work.
Home inspection.
Okay. Lender, what was that?
Appraiser.
Appraiser, yep.
Transaction coordinators.
TCs.
I guess like the title company.
Title. Definitely need them.
Specialists, yes.
Specialists, yeah.
I also put lawyers, because sometimes things have to be
Yes.
cleared or things like that. I also put city occupy permit people, like if it's a brand new house,
Yeah.
you have to get occupancy first.
Occupancy, I'll just tie that into P and Z too. So planning and zoning, sometimes it's especially new construction developments that where the developer is hard to reach and you can't get the plat and you need to, I mean, sometimes you literally have to go to the planning and zoning office and get the information.
In that case, you would also need the building inspector then too,
Yeah,
right?
they're involved, they can definitely hold you up. Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna operate more with builder, but they can definitely stall you. Yeah, there's insurance agents.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
When should they get insurance or seek insurance? It's within 10 days of going out of contract. The lender should tell them that. The lenders will forget to tell them that. So we've had several clients that get their coverage 3 days before we close because they're like, oh, we need insurance. Yeah. Surveyor potentially. If we need work done, contractors, right? Sometimes you have family members that get too involved. Yeah. It happens. Let's see, something else. Oh, movers. You'd think sellers would know how to coordinate movers and get out on time, but that's not always the case either, so. Okay, Wilson. Right, I've got a story here too. So we had I had a client, this is several years ago. He had come up, we had done a lot of work for, with Bass Pro Shops whenever Johnny was building Wonders of Wildlife, and his pick to lead that came out of Florida. He was a veteran, so we had a VA deal. That deal got held up for about 3 weeks because we couldn't get a certificate from the Veterans Association. So a very rare circumstance, we had to pull in Billy Long and Claire McCaskill's office to literally have them send a letter to the Veterans Affairs, and the next day we got the letter. So it's rare that you have to work with the city government or the government officials, but it's possible. So that's the only time I've had to do that, but hopefully you never will. So, okay. What about types of inspections? When we get to talking about the home inspector, specialists kind of tie into that on what they do, but what kind of inspections should we have, or what should you talk about?
Right on, if there's a basement.
Yep. And the radon there's all kinds of information out there on radon. So is there definite that, half a basement's needed? It's a hit or miss thing. I've, for some reason, find that properties that stay stagnant, no air moving through, you're gonna have a higher chance of that failing a radon test. So your vacant homes, things like that, if you have a completely enclosed basement, it's very likely, yeah. I've had crawl space homes do that as well. So, and sometimes it depends on the placement of where that inspector puts the test. So I just had one dropped yesterday at a property that's a crawl space. It's 4,600 square feet. They picked the top room that's not being used and they closed the door. And so there's no airflow in there. So I said, open the door. You can't open windows. You can't create an airflow because those machines will detect that. But under normal circumstances, that door is not closed for 48 hours. So those are all things that radon is a special special thing for sure, special animal. What else? So we have the general home inspection. What else?
Well, septic.
Well, and septic, yeah.
Right.
Termite, yeah.
Mold.
Mold, yeah, you can. There's different forms of mold inspection, for sure. On the septic, there's a form in docs that you can, it actually attaches to the contract as a rider where you can push off the costs to basically excavate to do the proper septic inspection onto the seller. So it's not used very often. I don't use it unless the tank is completely buried and I know we're gonna be digging. As to dig out is around $250 to do that. So if you've got the two to three ports up top, easily accessible, they probably aren't gonna need a dig. So, yep. There's all sorts of stuff. There's allergen testing. There's, they can detect the air spores. There's a slew of different, if it's possible to inspect, they can do that. So that's something to keep in mind. Most of the time though, it's gonna be home radon or home termite radon if there's a basement more than likely. But let your client make that decision. So don't make that decision for them.
Can you also check to see, like, especially if a house, it looks like it's in a pretty shady area, if meth was made in that, can you?
They can do like residual testing type stuff on it. Yeah. It's one of the mandatory disclosures. So
I know,
it's,
but it's
yeah.
never check marked. Yeah.
I've never come across one that said, yeah, definitely meth factory. No. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Working in St. Joe and you'll know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So all these people, that's a lot of people that are going to be involved and we're responsible for managing it and making sure that everybody's kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of communication that happens between the buyer and seller there. The agents keep it on track. When should you be talking to the lender in this process?
Day one.
Yeah, day one, and day one, and maybe every week leading up to the closing, making sure that they're on it. A lot of lenders are really good. They're going to send updates to both buyer and seller agent. So I like it when they do that. There's also an overshare where they could call you and they want to talk for 45 minutes about a deal, and that's too much. I want to know that everything's okay or everything's moving ahead. Another thing, whenever you're communicating with the lender right here, you need to know what, as far as appraisal, what are we looking at? Do we think that inspections could be iffy? Because we don't want an ordinary appraisal till we get that done, really. Because it's a good way to get your client to spend an extra $500 that didn't need to happen before the inspections actually processed through. But yeah, and I'm definitely talking to them, making sure we're getting numbers. They got to get us numbers 3 days before close, but I'm asking day 5 or 6. Where are we at? What are we waiting on? Let's see here. Home inspector, when do you book the home inspector?
Immediately.
Day 1. Yep. That's why that 10-day window is doable. Most home inspectors, even the best ones in the area, are going to be able to accommodate. So we're probably within that 5 to 6 day range. But communicating that and making sure it's a home inspector that can get in front of your clients and explain things and not in an alarming way. So, and all these things come down to relationships. So I have my favorite lender, favorite home inspector. I don't have favorite appraiser, but title company. If I can construct the deal and my clients will allow me, that usually what they do is say, you do this all the time, just set it up. They don't care. I will put together my little dream team and then I move on. I don't worry about it. So it depends on who's in the mix a lot of the time on whether or not you have to worry about it. Yeah, the other stuff's kind of hit and miss. So it depends on the deal. All right, let's see here. One big thing to tell buyers too is don't buy big stuff. Don't take out any credit. You got to remind them of that. They are so excited that you're going to go out and buy that car. They just got a house, they're gonna get a new car, it's gonna be great, and then they're not gonna get a house. But that's where the financing contingency comes in. So, let's see here. Where do you think the transaction, a normal transaction is gonna be most vulnerable?
Inspection.
That and appraisal. Those are the two challenges. So, and you'll know based on the deal, whether or not, hopefully it's a, brand new house priced right. And I'm telling you, those go really nicely. So you just hand the list to the builder and say, it's a new house, fix it all. And you're done. So if only every deal was that easy. Okay. Let's see here. So we did that kind of on our own here. We've got a little bit more than what's included in this timeline. We've already gone through that. Okay. Okay, interaction and communication points. So this is where in the process are we? Sorry, we know the deadlines. What we're doing to get to those deadlines. Who's involved? We need to think about the communication basically that needs to happen within this to make these things happen. So, we've got the deal. Let's say we'll start with the buyer. Deal's made. What's the first thing we do? Say congrats. Now I'm going to tell you what needs to happen. So, and some of these things are going to be just communication. Some of them are going to need to be documents that you actually get ready and get there by the deadline. So we've got our deal. Let's just say that there's no property data. I haven't written a deal with property data in it since they started coming out with property data. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. So that, to me, the property data period, it's, get with your client, know the neighborhood, know the area, know the schools, get them all the information. Because if you can avoid that as being a get out of jail free card, that's going to make the seller a lot more happy. And it will potentially put you ahead of any other deal that maybe wants 1 or 2 days in there. Because that's not what the seller wants. They want to know that they want the property, and now here we go. So property data, we're going to say that was 0, so that's nothing. So what are we going to tell our buyer on day 1 after we say congrats? What do they need to do first thing? Looking at that list.
Help you hire a inspector.
Yep. We need to book inspections like right here. Book inspections. Okay. When we book inspections, what you're supposed to do is send them a couple options. Okay. And that's just basically to make you not in trouble in the middle and liable for, hey, this is the one person they told me to go work with. Have it be their decision. Try to give them a couple people that you really trust. I always try to send 2 that have done really well for us in the past. Out of those 2, there's one I really hope they pick. So, and they usually do, but it's a lot of that. I leave it up to them because what I do, and this is not what maybe everybody else does, but as soon as that we got it, I've got a drafted text. Congratulations. Here's our next steps. Here's the 2 companies that I would suggest. It's up to you. Here's their email addresses. And at the same time I do that, if there's earnest money involved, I'm going to have them get right on that earnest money. I'm trying not to adjust the dates in the contract. I want to make the offer that goes over as clean as possible. And the more I adjust dates and extend stuff out, it looks like we're going to be dragging to me. So I try to keep it as clean as possible. They've got 5 days to get that earnest money in there. Most of the title companies if they haven't already, they're working on ways to get an electronic deposit. So I work mainly as much as I can with Hogan Land Title. I send the link, send $5,000 here. It's usually done that day, and we have receipt of it. So that becomes a non-issue. So once we book inspection and we've got earnest money, who needs to know about it?
The other agent.
The other agent. Yep. Co-op agent. Okay. All right, what else do we need to do day 1? Who needs to get the contract?
Banker.
Yeah, lender contract. Okay, and title company, same time. Get them all on the same email. And what I do, I send it over with, and they kind of talked the other day about cover sheets. I mean, it basically contract, I don't go into every little detail of what the contract is, but I want them to know contract price, earnest money. Are there any concessions? What date are we trying to close? And is there anything special in there? It's like, yeah, we're gonna set the date for February 28th, but we want to close as soon as possible. So make sure that we're moving these ponds along to get to that point. So good title company is going to stay on top of that for you. Okay, so we've got all that hard work done right there. If you're gonna get a survey, that's a day one thing too. Day 1 or 2 thing. Let's put that down here as well. And if you ever need any of these kind of people, just send me a text message. I've got several of them in the phone over the past years. People that can get out there. There's different kinds of appraisers. The appraisers will only go up to, some will only go up to 40 acres. So sometimes you need ones that can expand beyond that, really. Let's see. And then, okay, so we're going right along here and we do our inspection, so we don't need the specialist. Who needs to get the notice as soon as we do that? Within 10 days, right? Yeah, co-op agent. Okay. So we're moving along here. And inspections were really good and everything worked out, because that's how it happens. They're gonna talk about it with their client, communicate on that side of it, and then they will come to a resolution. Who needs to know about the inspections and the resolution? That all stays in-house, right? So we've got contractors that might get involved if something needs to be fixed, but that's something that happens on this side of the transaction. We're not gonna get an inspection, get it resolved, and then go ahead and let the lender know, hey, we took $5,000 instead of fixing the furnace that's shot. Lender doesn't need to know any of that stuff. So inspection stuff will never reach a lender. Okay, what about final walkthrough? Who would need to know about that? Are the people living at the house? The seller? And that's kind of a funny one. I try to do sellers, buyers, and agent. I try to get as absolutely close, unless we've got some significant repair stuff that we need to check on. I try to get as close as we can to the actual closing date. Sometimes we're there on the closing date. In that process, this is probably the most stressful point of all of this for sellers. So if you're going to impose on them to do your final walkthrough, one, you want the place to be cleared out as much as it possibly can be, but that's where you can get some pushback. I mean, we've tried to do walkthroughs, 2 days before, and well, the movers are there, and that's not going to work, and they just keep on, hitting the puck down the road. So on these things, it's asking, what is this a form of communication or a document? Most of this is going to be communication. So your documents will be right over here in survey. Inspections, that's gonna be a document. Walkthrough is a document between you and your buyer only. So I'm gonna read you the final walkthrough form. And then hopefully all that goes real smooth and you close. Okay. So when you do this, and everybody's gonna do this a little bit differently, but you should communicate with the buyer, kind of what the process looks like. And that should another thing that should be done up front. So, I mean, I tell them whenever we write the offer and we're in the, looking like the final stretch, we get under contract, said, I'm gonna need you to go focus on this right now. So, because if we don't get these things rolling, it's gonna impact everything else down the road. So being able to communicate with them is gonna be absolutely critical, especially in the early on. What you don't want is a situation where you talk to them on day one, and then you talk to them on, day 15, and then you see them at the closing. There's gotta be more communication in there. We're very much, counselors during this too. There's been many, many late nights of going through inspection reports and, kind of talking people off the edge of what is important, what's not important. And that's another thing. It's a skill that you'll get as you do more and more inspections. Most things are not critical. So you got your big stuff, your roof, your HVAC. Most stuff's going to be cosmetic. Foundation stuff is always scary to people, but concrete cracks, you're gonna see minimal foundation cracks and things like that in our area, especially with the water table, what it is. So just being able to communicate with them is gonna be a big deal. Okay. And then, you gotta kind of gauge your client too. So what's the best way to talk to them? Is it gonna be text, email, phone? Same thing with the agents. So what I typically do is if I'm sending over an inspection notice, I send the notice, I text the agent as soon as I do it, just sent you this. So it's almost always going to be a 2-point touch with all of them. So, and some of them are not going to keep track of the dates. So there are ways within Command to do that too. And we'll look at Command here. Just a bit. And there are templates that you can use. Command is actually in the works of kind of making. Brian Fisher posted a video. I don't know if you saw it on the internal page under opportunities, where you can actually schedule expirations and things like that. So you can track your inspection resolutions. You can track the appraisal, financing timelines, all that stuff. So it's not connected yet with tasks, so it doesn't give you an alert. So you kind of have to look for it unless you create it as a task. But Command is actually, it's every day, it's getting better. So, and I came from using a different program called SkySlope. It kind of had some of the same features, but not nearly what Command can do. So if you're not totally immersed in that, I would stop the other CRMs and focus on this. Okay, did all that? Okay. So one more little brainstorm here. Who are all the people that are involved in the seller transaction? Much less than what we're going to deal with on the buy side, and a lot less time constraint. So think about who we're talking about there, and we'll do that for 2 minutes. Okay. Get up and stretch, get a drink.
Oh, this is the fourth one. My gosh. Same pattern.
Sir. Okay, yeah. I do. You know, I didn't bring it down here. I'll get you one. Yep, I'll get you one. What was that? Morning.
It's so rainy here.
That's already closed. My next conference.
I didn't want to be late, so I didn't stop.
To find it.
It's just.
Get them alone. Too. That's the first could be bad.
I hit a curb.
Yeah.
I like it.
The one that.
Yeah, it's tires like. So I'm gonna take it to a shop.
I do.
Sure, just knocked it off the alignment. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know, they know.
But I smacked the curb. It pulls to the left really hard.
Or maybe it's because I.
You're just used to it.
I'm just used to having to.
I don't know, I just like, I don't know. I didn't even see the curb last night.
A couple.
Yeah.
So I did not.
Lucky ducks.
Sack River that comes out.
Do you fart?
Flows north towards Ocean.
I mean, what's your legal name?
And you know what?
Any what? Any what? I'm gonna start calling you by your full name, because public shaming apparently doesn't work.
I'm just so used to it.
But where's your handwritten card? Laughs a lot. Here.
I don't know who else writes it.
Yay, you win the gold star for the day. You get one back. You know, I love you all, right? You guys are gonna go and like, there's gonna be me against me. Like, she's really not nice. We don't want her in our market center anymore.
That's not true.
Thank you. I needed to hear that. I was like, somebody have that, please.
Yeah, absolutely,
Let me
absolutely.
get 5.
Yes, yeah.
No. I have a bunch of family group chats.
Oh, I missed
so never really
Yeah.
opened this one. Sorry. Wait, messenger.
Where are you going?
I didn't know where you're going. You're pushing. Okay. I didn't know where you were going. It's hard to read you sometimes,
I know, you're not the first person to say
especially on
that.
Thursdays.
What?
You never know what's gonna happen on
Right.
Thursday.
Especially after being at the circus all night.
It's 25 bucks. You just must buy that instead.
It's not loading.
Andrea, you gave me cards? I do. How many did you eat? Can I eat 10? Do you have enough? Yes, because when we ordered the last box, we ordered 2. There's 5. I need to go die, doctor. May not see very well. Yes, and then Christina gave me some too. She did.
You never know.
Yeah. You guys excited for our happy hour tomorrow?
Is it only?
That's a.
Happy hour.
No,
I can't, I know I can't make it.
I'll be late, but I'll be there.
But you,
Yeah.
Can't afford much.
4 to 6 at Whiskey Tango. Yeah, we talked about this. G, are you gonna make it? Where were you this morning, sir?
It's really say, hey, check this one out.
Is that
Yeah.
like a really long dirt road, then you take another dirt road, and then there's the.
4 to 6.
No.
At Taco Bell, which is also known as Whiskey Tango on Republic Road.
good one. You're on it. You always work.
Taco Bell, I'm out.
I'm always on it.
You're always great.
Like, I just.
Only known you for like a week.
I don't want to hear it.
Longer than that. Yes, like 4 weeks at least.
So there's like.
I gave you 5. I wasn't sure what you gave. I gave you 5.
Yeah.
Okay, then I counted right.
Yeah.
I ate tacos and now I smell like tacos. Can you smell it?
Where? No.
Can
I'm
you?
just gonna have to not do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It was so good. I had street tacos.
They have the best
Today.
Yeah. I smell.
They didn't answer.
I'll let you smell my hands. I've washed them. But they still smell.
Upstairs, you can smell it.
And then you go to do something like this, you go.
Starts.
Monday's like.
Yeah, no, it's just
So
good. It's
good.
fine. Well, they ordered whatever the ones that are fried.
Okay. Those are
And
floats.
no, they weren't the
No.
flowers. They're like, they started with a B.
Oh, Beria.
Yep, that's it. And then they were dipping it and like, they looked like they ate ribs.
No,
afterwards. And I'm like here with my little street taco.
Yeah.
So good.
Those are so good.
Well, there's a couple.
They're my favorite. Okay, so I
I
made
don't know them by name. I
taco
know-
lasagna the other night. It's my family's favorite.
Yeah.
And I used,
Yes.
yes,
So good.
it was so good. So you do your like your taco meat like you normally would, right? And then you get the corn tortillas and you lay them in like you would lasagna noodles. And then you put salsa. And so I got fresh salsa because I didn't have time to make it. Right. Anyway, so I put the salsa and then the taco meat and then the cheese and then you layer it just like lasagna. And then sometimes if I remember, I'll put black beans in there as well, but you could do like a refried
I
bean.
usually always.
But then I usually just do black beans on the side.
In Chicago. So good.
It was,
Black beans or corn.
yeah. Well, I'll do just like the motel sometimes, like minus the cheese, just the tomatoes and stuff. And my family loved it.
And you use like the regular, like the stuff or the hard?
The soft. I do the white corn because I love corn tortillas, but when they're yellow, the kids say they don't like them, but when they're white, they like the flour ones. they can have
I like the white ones too, like the white ones.
This sucks.
I tricked my family. I tricked my
Months.
family.
So I'm not.
I took mine and eat vegetable, I make it in a salad.
Oh, it's good. It's so good. We'll trade secrets later.
Okay, guys, seller communication. Within this transaction, who's involved and when are we gonna communicate with the seller? So obviously we get under contract, so we're, congrats. There's stuff to do now, right? What do we need to communicate to the seller who needs to be involved? The buyer's agent already sent the contract to the lender and title. Should we send it to title too?
Yeah.
I'll never count on it. No,
Especially if they're. from
make
where-
sure you make that communication. And if you haven't already, I call the lender before we accept the offer, if I'm on the seller side. I want to talk to, I've got a letter, that's wonderful. If it's a local lender, even better. If I've worked with them in the past, fantastic, good track record. Still gonna call them, say, hey, this John Brown guy, is he legit? Because they'll tell you probably more than what they should. So, and it'll make you feel quite a bit more confident going forward. And you can kind of set expectations on what you want to hear from them, when you want to hear from them, keep me in the loop. I'll bug them if I haven't heard from them. I want to make sure that things are going good down here. Okay. What else do we tell the seller early on? But don't worry about the earnest money. We're gonna track that. That's gonna be part of what we do. We know that they're gonna inspect, so we're gonna, somewhere around here, tell them about inspection timing. Right? I know, like, a lot of people work from home. A lot of people don't like to be inconvenienced. Another conversation to have with your sellers up front is, guys, this is a process. We got to keep things moving. Just because you don't like the inspection time. I mean, there's some circumstances where you're gonna have to work around different things, but try to be accommodating. Try to be accommodating inspector, try to be really accommodating to the appraiser. So they're in and out of there in usually 45 minutes. It's not that big a deal. The nicest, I mean, bake some cookies or something, make sure the house is just perfect for them. As far as inspection timing goes, what are other things to prepare for the inspection that you should tell them? Some of it depends on what inspections you have. One thing that is always frustrating is when we tell sellers to, we go through, we're like, okay, remove all your personal belongings, take all that stuff, they don't take pictures of the garage, fill up the garage, have the house show right, it needs to have the flow, feel, all that good stuff. Well, then the garage is completely packed full, right? So where's the attic access? It's in the garage. So what if they can't get into the mechanical closet? Inspector's not gonna go in there and start moving dressers around to access this stuff. You'll get a report that says inaccessible. If you get a report that says the mechanical closet where the furnace and water heater are, and in the attic, they couldn't check the anything there on the roof bracing and all that, we're gonna be paying for another inspection more than likely. And hopefully you can get that done in that 10-day window. So more often than not, if something like that happens, we're gonna have to, it's the seller's fault. Kind of my fault for probably not reminding them as well. We're gonna have to allow them to extend out that inspection period, maybe even pay for the additional inspection. So you gotta make sure that they know that you gotta be able to access everything. Other things too, when you get into rural properties, make sure the wellhead's accessible. A lot of times they're in little tiny mini barns with locks on the door. I mean, they need to be able to check that, the bladder, all that stuff that goes, the components of the well. Septic is, can we see the caps, you know? A lot of times if I'm not sure if something's gonna be accessible, I mean, I'm going out there and I'm doing a video and say your cap's here, this cap's here, and I send it to the inspector. So like, if we need to dig out, I wanna make sure that you know to have the excavator there to get this done. It's gonna be an extra charge, but they can usually tell. A lot of times if they know that that's a maybe, what if, they'll go out there and if they're like, we need it, they'll get back out there the next day and actually do the dig out. So if you kind of preemptively take care of some of these things, it's not gonna be a thorn in your side. Okay, so we've talked to them about inspection timing. Oh, missed a big one here too. So once we get under contract, how many days do you get to have to market pending in MLS?
3.
3, yeah. So it's best to do that as oh, got it. Oh,
Did you click it with the mouse?
yeah, but I'm like, why isn't it working?
Click it with the mouse one more time.
Oh, did this turn off?
Yeah,
Oh,
you've gone
okay.
back and forth.
Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of the cheat sheet, but so we're informing them of the inspection. When we get the inspection back, we're gonna send it to the seller. Right? And we're gonna tell them that we've got 10 days to figure it out, right? We don't wanna wait all that long. If we can figure this out quicker, we will. But, you know, time is of the essence here. 10 days is max, because at that end of that 10 days, if we haven't come to an agreement, we're done, dead in the water. So most of the time, agents are on top of this. They've got the report, they've got their kind of key contractor people that they'll kind of disperse out for these type things. A lot of times, the more of the kind of generalist repair people, they're so used to seeing these reports. You can say, look, here's my report, here's the 10 items, what's cost, that kind of thing. And they can usually generate a pretty good idea of a bid within just a few days. So if you send that inspection notice and you don't hear back the next day, they're probably working on it. Day 5 or 6 in there, I'm communicating with the co-op agent to see, hey, are things happening here? Is there anything I can help with? A lot of agents, especially if they're newer in this area, they don't know who to call, who to work with, you know, who are the foundation guys, who are the roof specialists, who can move quick enough. You Google the biggest companies, they'll tell you, oh yeah, we're 2 weeks out, you know. We need things to happen quite a bit faster than that. Next thing is gonna be that resolution. So getting to the resolution. And this, I mean, it is another negotiation period. So hopefully everybody comes to terms, we get to that resolution, we can move on. From that resolution, if it was money, we'll do an amendment. That's gonna be a document one way or another. But if it's not money, it's contractors, then we're gonna work with them, unless they got somebody they really know they want. We're talking to our people and getting contractors out there to help them out. Getting those receipts and everything too. A lot of times if you can provide professional documentation that something was done, you're gonna completely eliminate a reinspection on the repair terms that are back out over here too. As far as schedule appraiser, so the lender's gonna order the appraisal. They're gonna have a need by date. The contact, it should be this way in the MLS, is gonna be you to be the appraisal contact. Once the appraiser calls, which I had two in the past 2 days. I had one last night on a listing, call at 9 o'clock last night, and hey, can we be there at 8 AM? Like, sure, you know, okay. I really hate telling them no. I want them to be happy because I want them to appraise my properties. So I try to be extra nice. If it's one that I think is kind of on the hinge, I just might show up out there coincidentally around the same time. Have a good conversation, have comps, things like that. You will develop relationships with these people and it'll pay off. With that, so we'll have the appraiser. Yeah, the other one called me this morning at 10 o'clock for a 1 o'clock today. That's not normal. So I don't know, I guess they're bored. Not enough going on. Okay. So hopefully this one never happens. Send the seller the low appraisal response. They really hate that. If you do, what are the ways you can fix that? Do you have to drop the price? Maybe, and it's possible. So if, especially in a market that we just came out of, no, we're gonna cover the gap. So you probably agreed to cover the gap, whatever you wrote the offer. The other options, you can meet in the middle. You know, I mean, it's meet in the middle, drop the price, or buyer comes up, basically. So that's the internal way to do it. If we have all of our documentation, all of our CMA data, we're not going back 2 years, we're going back 6 months. We can validate that, hey, you didn't use this comp, you should have used this comp. Challenge the appraisal through the lender. All that can happen. It's hard. It's real hard. I mean, you don't usually win those battles. As sometimes the buyer's just willing to pay more than what the market's gonna give there. But out of probably a handful of those that we've done, we've probably won 2 or 3. So it's rare. The appraisers are very proud of what they report they make. So it's difficult, but it is something that that's one way to go back up against it. And then we're going to review the closing statements. That's going to happen right around that 3-day mark as well. So we're making sure that everything's on there, any receipts, any stuff that's going to be paid out at closing. If you've got a property with a septic tank, or not septic, propane tank, are you checking the propane tank, 3 or 4 days before close and getting a picture of the dial, getting with the company that provided the propane, getting the new daily rate, getting that in an email, getting that to the title company? That's all stuff, that's money due to your seller. Sometimes it's gifted, but it just depends on the situation. So all of that needs to happen there. And let's see here. Oh, back to this thing. I'm just talking and missing the slide.
I prefer you to talk.
Okay.
One thing that I think about too, and I don't know, maybe you covered it, but when we're talking about comparing our seller for deadlines, I always think about the closing date so that they understand when you close, your stuff is out. Like there isn't I'm gonna go to closing, come back and finish. It's preparing them ahead of time that they're gonna come in the day before or the morning of to do a final walkthrough on the property. And if you still have stuff there, that can be a problem. And that there isn't a go backsies to the house and pull the stuff out.
Yeah. And it happens a lot.
You'd be surprised how many people don't realize that closing day is moving day.
Yeah. I've definitely had a few of those. Okay. Okay, then we're gonna go a little bit into command here. Any ahas with all this confusing stuff? Communication. Hey,
People's actually like in a transaction.
there could be a lot of people. That's why it's so important to, I mean, it takes a little while to get into the market and know all the players, and you'll find that like, when you get to, consistently, you're in real estate and you're doing transactions year after year. And a lot of times at the levels that you're doing it at, you're working with a lot of the same people. Because while there's a lot of agents in the area, there's not a lot that are really the true producers. So there's many agents in this area. I know how they operate. I know what they're gonna do. I know where the gives will be. I know the builders that they represent. I know what we can and can't get away with. All those things help your client, you know? You can kind of, it's a cooperative type thing. And I mean, you start, sending 30, 40 deals to the same home inspector every year. They like you quite a bit. You need something tomorrow, they're gonna work overtime to make sure you get what you need. So communication and relationships, for sure. Any other ahas?
I would say setting the right expectations for your buyers and sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of that goes back to communication. If they've heard you say the same thing a few times over, especially if they work multiple deals with you, they kind of know what to expect. They know what the communication style is. I mean, it's up to you on kind of how you want to work, what hours you kind of want to keep. I mean, we're in the business of being available, in my opinion. There's times where we'll draw the line doing stuff with the family. Maybe I'm not answering for the next 3 or 4 hours, but I always connect back. And most of the time, I mean, I tell clients when I get them, they're every time they call you, like, I hate to bother you. It's like, that's literally, I want your house to close too. I want this to happen. I tell them to reach out to me. It's like, if I don't answer, I'm asleep probably. So, and I will talk to you when I'm not sleeping. So, I mean, we'll take calls into the night, and that's just kind of how I like to work. I'm not saying that's how you need to be. But I definitely want to keep moving things along. So, some of that appraiser wanted to talk at 9 p.m. Let's try to get you in there. So, and it worked out. Anything else? Risk avoidance, right? We talked about a lot of that. I really still feel like a lot of risk avoidance happens early on. Know what you're looking at. Me, I mean, I'm not a home inspector. I don't try to be a home inspector when I'm going into these properties with clients, but if I know what the problem will be. I can pretty well put a finger on it, I mean, I don't get in every crawl space, but I'll open it up. I'll look at it. If it's a real actual crawl space, definitely not. That's scary. But the newer construction, things like that, where they've got the right access points, and I mean, you'd be surprised, your clients seeing you kind of really dig in like that. What they feel like they're working with somebody that really knows what they're doing, what they're looking for. And then one thing too, what I did early on is inspectors are really they can be pretty accommodating if you want to tag along with them. I mean, I went to several inspections and crawled under houses with them and saw what they saw and kind of have a good sense of what to be after. So, I mean, it's something that will help you in the long run. Okay, let's see here. And risk avoidance, really, when we kind of going back to the basics here, inspections, appraisal being the top two, like kind of pain points. If you're worried that you're not going to appraise, then have that ammo ready with comps and something to push back on, and have the expectation with your clients that, hey, listen, you bought this a year ago for 30,000 less than we're trying to sell it right now. I just don't know. I mean, you might get somebody that says yes, but I don't know that we're gonna get an appraiser that says yes if it comes down to it. So all those things can happen. All right. Everything we just talked about. Yeah, always act in your client's best interest, even when it seems to conflict with your own. That's who we're working for, and sometimes the deal is not meant to happen. So, you know, we've had a few instances where I had a client, an investor client that was, he just moved to the area about 2 years later, wanted to start getting into investment properties. We looked at some really ugly stuff. I mean, he came across one where it was fairly bad, but I didn't see any roofing or structural issues, things like that. Not on the outside. It was one of these like old stone buildings. They had a garage underneath this house, completely packed full. I mean, it was like a tiny little route to get back in there. And then it went into a smaller crawl space. So we paid to have the inspection done. I mean, everything, foundation issues in there. The inspector, he was pretty mad at me. So he usually was on really nice stuff. This was not a nice house. He went back in there, it was dead cats and like water leaking. And yeah, he was pretty traumatized from it. But it was bad enough that we were in a situation in this contract that I always write up contracts with a 10 to 15 day inspection window. It depends on what kind of market we're in. But I always check the box limitation of inspection rights, because it's like, look, whatever it is, we need to give them a chance to fix it. This one was bad enough to where if we would have sent over the list, the whole thing, and said, hey, we want everything fixed, they probably would have kicked it back and said, no, we're not going to do that anyways. But this was to the point where he was like, I don't want to have anything to do with this, even if it is fixed. And so now it's like, okay, so you either have to, you got to figure out how you're going to fail financing, because we'll clear appraisal at this low price that we were already at anyways, or we got to get out of here for inspections. So at that point, I was with him. I was like, we need to get you out of this. I didn't call and say, hey, sorry, we just want a mutual release. I called the agent and said, listen, we just got the inspection notice back and it is the worst one I've ever seen. I can send it over to you if you want, and you guys can disclose it all after you say no to us, or I can just not send it. We can just mutual release. And they said, no, we don't want to see it. We trust you that it's that bad. We'll mutual release. So that was one where we basically were able to get him out of the deal because it wasn't going to be in his best interest. So it's a lot of time, money. I mean, I was over there 3 or 4 times. It's just, sometimes that's what these deals are. But it's all back to being all relationships. They bought a house from me. They've sent 4 or 5 clients to me. We're still looking for investment properties for them. It's not always about forcing it to happen. So let's see. Another one we had that fell through. It was also doing inspections, but this was on the seller side. So I had a client that did a complete remodel on a place in Southeast Springfield. We got under contract. It was a young kid on the other side buying it. Put earnest money up on it. So we got under contract, and we go through the inspection, and they send over a huge list, right? And we say, okay, you know, we don't want to lose the buyer, but we're going to do 1 through 5, not 5 through 10. And we send that back over. Well, then the other agent goes quiet, nothing. Day 10 comes along, and I call and say, hey, you know, what's going on? It's like, well, he's not going to do it. He's just not going to do it. We're just going to let the deal die. And so I told my clients, like, well, here's where we're at. You can let this expire in the resolution period. It's a mutual release, or you can capitalization. Yeah, that's closer, but it's a hard word to say and spell. So we were right at that time window. So we just said, we rescinded it, said, forget it. We don't, you know, we'll take care of everything. We'll do 1 through 10 for you. Signed it, sent it back. And they said, no, we don't want it anymore. So they sent over a mutual release. We said, no, we'll let you out of this, but we're gonna take your earnest money. And it was a fight for about 10 days, and we sent over an attorney letter, and they signed off on us getting the mutual release money back. So that was a deal where, you know, it fell through. We did everything right. We did everything by the contracts. Could have sued him, honestly, for just changing his mind. We opted to take the money and go back on market and did just fine. So some of those situations will happen. The thing is, like, what always stuck with me early on is like, you've got to have somebody that wants to sell a house, and you got to have somebody that wants to buy a house. And if there's a breakdown on one of those sides and they just absolutely change their mind, you're not going to be able to force it. You're either going to be looking at legal issues or mutual release, and earnest money is going to go to somebody. So I do try to put earnest money in most of my contracts, just for that reason. But I tell clients right up front, I'm like, listen, there's no guarantee this earnest money is going to go back to you. I mean, the contract is extremely buyer friendly. The seller should sign off on it, but they don't have to. They could hold it up and we could go into arbitration. It could be a year plus before you get that $1,000 back. Because that's why it's all set up to go into arbitration. But it's something that helps you stand out early on. More than likely or not, it's going to go back to the buyer unless they just change their mind. So let's see. So act in their own interest. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, is there a price point you base earnest money? Just depending on the property, like.
My minimum is typically 1,000.
Okay. I've seen 1,500, I've seen 2,000.
Yeah, 25, when we start getting into the 600 and above, it's usually 2,500,
I just wondered if
5,000.
there was a.
Yeah. That example, the contract that we had up there, that was a contested situation. We had another buyer that we were competing against. So we opted to give them what they wanted on their closing timeline and put up 5,000 in earnest money and add the rider that it was non-refundable. So whatever happened, if we got out for any reason that was legitimate, they know they're keeping $5,000. So, and that was enough to set us apart to keep the ball in our court there. More ahas. I think they've got them. Are y'all working with Command quite a bit? Have you done deals within Command? Let's see if I can get this to do what it's supposed to do. There's a lot of good features in there. What the heck? Oh, there we go. Okay. So within Command, one thing I wanted to show you all, Command is going to be as valuable as you make it out to be, really. In the past, I never really used a CRM very much. This is a little different. I've really intentionally tried to make sure I'm putting contacts in there, make sure I'm putting email addresses in there. I do all my mailing lists for this. I don't do a lot of physical snail mail stuff. I do mail calendars and some reminder stuff and things like that out every year. But the big thing here is that there are smart plans. And as you can see, I do not do well with smart plans. I haven't called people since September that I'm supposed to. But Onward actually set all these smart plans up for me. But what is really nice is the capability of this to help produce newsletters every month. So we have that sent out every month. And a lot of the other email touches and things like that will come from the contacts page in here. So really within Command, I don't use tasks as much either, but contacts and opportunities all the time. We do kind of the goal planning in here. It's been moving really slow too. We'll see if it'll work. I don't have all of my opportunities uploaded in here yet. Usually the ones that are more, I feel strongly about that they're going to happen or produced this year, I put in here, which changes too. But what's nice is that you're able to, within the transaction here, like, let's just go to. If you've taken a command class, you've probably already heard all this, but you're able to basically track where the deal's at every time that you update it. So under contract, right now we're going through inspections. There's a probability rate basically that command's calculating on whether or not it's going to find its way to the close. So you can change that to as soon as, and I do this to kind of follow along where everything's at. I will put it to appraisal, put it to financing, and then when we're clear to close, and command will take that information and give me likelihood of what that commission is going to look like. Okay, don't change anything, I guess. Then documents. So this is where you get to go to the transaction that's going to connect to DocuSign. So you can pull all information in here. Are you guys all aware of this stuff already? Have you gone through the DocuSign? Okay. One of the things in the documents tab is this little checkbox up here that is just found its way to command in the past week or so. So depending on where you're at, let's say we're in inspections right now, I can go in here and basically type, inspection notice due. I can type, not used to this computer. Okay, and then I can set a due date. So if you're worried about all this stuff, you can set up the deal to basically alert you when something's needed. So you pick that, and there's a way to set the time in there too, and save it. Right now, they're working on it to where it's going to pop up as a task. But in order to get an alert about it without having to go in there to the deal and see the checklist, you've got to set it up as a task. And then I recommend, contacts are super important. The opportunities feature with DocuSign is fantastic. It's one of the best that I've worked with. And then the goal setting. So they'll break down exactly where you're at, what you're after, where you want to be. Which if you haven't done that in here, make sure you do set your goals for, how many leads, how many discussions do you need to have? Communication is everything, to appointments, under contract, to where your closed units are actually going to be. I would love to do more closed units. We're usually in between the 40 and 50 range. I definitely want to increase that, but it's not right now in the niche I'm in. It's not, it's tough to do that basically. Okay. Did all that. Okay, here we go. Do you guys have any questions or anything on command specifically? It's a lot to learn. They made me teach it last year after being here just a year. And I certainly didn't know it all. Okay. All right, referrals and reviews. So client has a great experience. When do you ask for a review? Where should you ask for a review? What do y'all think is the best spot to get to that? It's hard because there's a lot of different platforms, right? Some people start on Zillow. We have Zillow reviews. I like those, but I'd rather have Google reviews. But those people that don't have a Gmail account, it's real hard to get them to do that. If you can get them on Facebook, that's great, but Facebook changes the algorithm all the time. So sometimes you go to a page, it might look at five stars, but it might be 2 reviews, but it's hard to find them, honestly. Being able to capitalize on a good good feeling, good experience as soon as possible, it's gonna help your business. You will grow your business from it. There are follow-up programs in commands that will basically, and that's part of the SMART plans, where you can, set up a, a 2-week check-in, 1-month check-in, those kind of things. Just for me, what's worked is keep it, make it personal. I mean, almost everybody that we work with, I mean, they become friends, they're not gonna go anywhere else. We'll check in and on them, they'll check in on us. We stay current. It's pretty easy with social media anymore to basically connect with people, sometimes on a daily basis. So, all right. Every conversation, that's for sure. Anybody have anything else to say as far as getting reviews go? I mean, is it hard to ask? Sometimes it's like, you don't want to ask the client for something from them, but that's how you're going to grow. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest things. We don't do any advertising. I've never spent marketing dollars on billboards, on Zillow, everything's referral, repeat business. It's all working the sphere, your key connections. Kind of feel like it's like the sphere within the sphere, that really core group that would, live and die for you, right? So a lot of our referrals come out of that core group, and those people are all out there. It's all about the relationships that you've already got, Any other ahas? Not just from referrals and reviews. This is a little bit of, it's kind of weird, it cuts off, but there's different nurture programs that you can set them up on as far as SMART plans go. It's tough to get yourself in that space to where you're diligent about, the one thing, sitting there 3 hours, knock it out. I'm still working on that and trying to be better at that myself. So there's incredible programs in there. These are all designed by agents. They're ranked. People use them. I mean, I don't reinvent the wheel. Go in there and look and see if there's something that kind of fits your style and what you like to do. And again, kind of back to the daily stuff. It's like the handwritten notes. If I take clients around for a tour, I'm sending them, a note afterwards. It's the first time I've met them. I do a lot of relocation though, personally. So a lot of the people that I work with are all from around the country and globe. So it's definitely easy to say, hey, thanks for taking the time for the tour. I hope that you love Springfield. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Hope to hear back from you soon. It's real easy to do that, and just create other ways to kind of give back to them. So again, from like a personal experience through relocation, it's like they don't know anything about Springfield. They don't know anything about it, the area, fun stuff to do, indoor, outdoor activities, the public school system, the private system. I've got all that in an email that when we're done touring, I'm like, I know that was a lot. Let me give you a lot more. So it sells them on the area. They end up getting the job. They're buying a house. And I'm the only person that they know. So things like that, if you can find your little kind of niche markets to be in, it's going to be helpful. But this will also help keep you on track if you can stay diligent enough to do that. Co-agent follow-up is a huge opportunity. When you've got good experiences with other agents, it's only going to help. I mean, I know for a fact it is one of Steele's over and over again because they want to work with somebody where they know what the expectation is. They know what I'm going to expect from my clients. It's not every deal is going to be easy and just totally flawless, but when you've got somebody on the other side you can work with, it makes a huge difference. You can make a lot of friends in the business too, and not to just be with the broker. There's several agents, when I see them coming my way on my listings, I'm ecstatic, pulling for them, hope it works out. And I will bring that to my clients too. I mean, if we've got competing offers, I'll be like, let me tell you about this deal. And I'll tell you about this one. So, and it pays off, and it's the client's decision. We had one this past year where I had clients move into the neighborhood, nightmare situation with the builder. The agent would not respond back. Agent actually didn't work nights and weekends at all. So you could not get a hold of her. It was awful. They installed the wrong stuff. Communication was all jacked up. A few months later, get another client that wants to buy the same type house from the same builder with the same listing agent. And I said, let me tell you about this. And guess what? It happened exactly that way again. And they said, you said it. You said it. They were so upset, not with me, with the other agent and the builder, that they got a hold of the other guy that bought first to get the builder's number, because you only get the builder's number after you close for the 1-year builder warranty. Went around the other agent and complained to the other agent or the builder about his agent and the communication and the problems, and they're good friends to this day. So be honest with people. I mean, I don't try to scare them away, but I don't want them to say, this was the worst experience ever, So they'll know if you're working for them and trying for them. But there are a lot of really great agents out there. There's also some not so good ones, but I'm very confident that we have a whole lot of great ones in this building, for sure. Honestly, when I was at my prior brokerage, 90% of my business was with a Keller Williams agent on the other side anyways. So, and it's kind of continued to be that way. So make sure you take time to develop those relationships. More ahas, man. There's a lot of ahas in this. Anybody got anything?
I would say having great relationship with other agents, not only in our brokerage, but overall.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that we've got here is the culture is, I mean, I've got experience with other major brokers locally, and it's not anything like this. The community is not like this. The people saying hi to people in the hall is not a normal thing in other places. The stuff that we do here, the Pineapple Whip Days, the Hispanic Heritage deal, that if you weren't here, that was phenomenal. I hope we do that every year. I mean, that was one of the best parties at any brokerage I've ever been to. It was so much fun. And those are things that the leadership team works on, but we are all able to add to that. And I think there's a really good team mentality here. So, I mean, I'm serious about it. If you need something, it's the middle of the night, call me. I want your deals to work out. I want to be able to help you free of charge. I do not, I just want the success for everybody involved, and it takes, especially if you're just getting started, it takes that. So I was lucky, and I had mentors that took me under the wing. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have made it. So, I mean, if you're not in an environment like this and you're just kind of out on your own, and good luck, it's hard. It's hard to get the questions answered because the contracts can be confusing and they change them every year. I mean, if once you get going in this, go to a contract class every year. Doesn't matter if you've been in the business 20 years, you should know what the changes are. And it helps. So that's that. Going back to that example where my seller client got the earnest money, it's because I went to a contract class and I knew that at the 11th hour, we could say, okay, we'll accept. The deal still stayed alive. If I hadn't gone to that contract class, it could have just expired. They would have got the money back. We'd be back on market. So that stuff's important. I mean, this business continually evolves. So as you've seen with the market shifts, I mean, we adjust and adapt, and there's a lot of opportunity here right now. I think it's a really good time to get into this business and take advantage of the market share that's going to go away from the people that aren't doing the things that you all are doing right now. So recap and ahas. Let's see what we've got here. Any new mindsets? Feel any different? Any actions, tools, models? I know this is overwhelming. This is everything though. I mean, it's automatic. I know that there are the checklists and things like that in here. I don't use them. Everything that I do is on paper primarily. So, which Shannon will not want me to say that, but I'm working towards, just finally got into coaching. I actually hired a coach to basically bring me over to the technology world to where I can have the calendar on the phone and all that, because I've got everything and my entire business is on a few sheets of paper in my binder. And I, every day, add a new client, it's there, this is what they're looking for. I adjust timelines on there, cross it off, I track commission, volume, all those things on just a few pieces of paper. And I know that if I want to grow, if I want to get transaction coordinators, buyers, agents, people like that, well, they're not just going to be with me all the time when I have my piece of paper, So there's always areas to grow, no matter where you're at in the business. You guys got anything? Did I change your thinking completely?
To the positive.
Positive? Good. That's good. There's a lot of different tools out there, but I mean, it really comes down to, you're gonna learn this stuff. This is just the nuts and bolts. This is stuff that's all gonna sink in and be second nature once you get a deal under contract. I mean, I know this is what I need to do, and I send it here, send it there, whatever. It just, it all clicks all of a sudden. That what doesn't is, you got to continue the relationship development, meet more people, meet more agents. I mean, just talk to people. I don't know, I never go anywhere that we don't have a real estate conversation. That's why I have so many write-offs. So everywhere we go. But you're gonna need those too. Keep those receipts. Let's see what else we got. I think we're out. Daily success system. Okay. Anybody got any other questions? Anything doesn't have to be this topic?
Do you ever buy leads? Like, I'm not trying to be nosy, but you hear some people that are in your position as far as their success, and how you've climbed up the ladder and where you're at now, but did you ever, I've talked to a couple of people here and they're all for buying leads, paying for them, okay? And then there's others that say, I've never bought a lead ever.
Yeah. Never bought a lead.
Never, even from your beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got started, so my background is in human resources. I thought I'd be running an HR department, something like that. Certainly happy I'm not. So this turned out a lot better. But that background, my degree is all in communication and development. We use that to kind of go at human resource companies, recruiters, things like that. There's recruitment companies from all over the world that partner with big businesses. Those are really hard to get into. Your local people here, if you know any local businesses that hire from outside, I mean, those relationships can really pay off. So our big one was that really kind of set in motion everything else was Bass Pro when and we were doing their executive level coming in. That was a relationship from the people that I started with. And once they retired, they were already used to Chris. I'd already been there with them for 3 years. So it was an easy transition there. At that time, Johnny just bought Cabela's. So all of these people from Sydney, Nebraska are now coming this way. So we did, 200 or 300 tours, and a lot of them landed here or got out of the business. Which was great because now you've got this whole core group here that knows you as the only agent, only realtor, only person that they need to go to. And that goes back to another setting expectations. In City, Nebraska, it hails like softballs. They did not understand that a 10-year-old roof is okay here. They're used to every 3 to 5 years a new roof. So I'd show them a house like it's 5 years of a 5-year-old roof. That needs a new roof. It does not. Doesn't need a new roof for probably another 10, maybe 15. That was a battle I had with every single one of them, just because it's a different perception, different reality. So being able to set those expectations, which kind of you saw a pattern, it was like, okay, well, it's not the same drain, not the same elements. Being able to do that, but that's kind of how it started. And I've always focused on the relationships with HR departments and recruiters throughout the area. I don't spend money on leads, but I will take them out to a $400 or $500 dinner whenever they want. You know, it certainly pays off. So, and just kind of keeping those relationships as solid as you can possibly do. I mean, that means everything. So, and showing up for them. I mean, thinking back to like the Bass Pro days, you know, I would get a phone call and be like, so-and-so's landing at the airport in an hour and we need you to be there. And it's like, all right, not gonna be at dinner tonight. I said yes every time. And the recruiters right now, I mean, if they need me to do something, I'm gonna be there. So we'll do anywhere 4 or 5 tours a week. Not everybody gets the job, but that's what I focus on. That all turns into referral business, repeat business. It kind of fills the funnel. So, but that's not how everybody's business works. You know, some people hate relocation. I mean, it's not fun to give away 30% of your commission to a relocation company where all they did was send you the name that you already toured with because you had the relationship with the recruiter. You know, I mean, that's typically what they do. But you get somebody who comes to the area, they end up loving it. They bought a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and now they want to buy a $700,000 or $800,000, and there's no recruiter or recruitment company involved. So that's how you win those situations. So I don't know if there's anything else here. Like I said, it's the first time I ever taught this. I'm sure we got off topic. I'm sure plenty enough. Oh yeah, don't call people you shouldn't call. Okay. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. Always come from contribution. Okay. I've actually never taken it at night, so you guys know what to do here. Go for it.
Before we do this, the teacher always takes us to Starbucks.
Only because you saw my top.
That's only fair.
Thanks a lot, other agent.
Hey.
If you guys have any questions, I'm gonna be hanging out for a little while, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
You bet.
You guys want to open house on Sunday?
Sunday?
Cassie.
I work on.
Sunday.
I know.
I just told everybody, I was like, I'm not doing enough classes on Sunday. And
Yeah, I know. Cassie, I would, and then I didn't realize that you actually have a listing on Saturday. She's got it set for Sunday. Yeah. Does anybody want to open house on set for Sunday?
I already decided I'm not doing one on Sunday.
Where's that at? I'm trying to do one on Saturday.
Where's that? at?
Willard.
Willard?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
How long has it been on the market?
She just put it on the market.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What time? 2 to 4?
Yeah,
Sunday?
Yeah.
2 to 4?
or what time you ever, whatever time you want it.
Sunday?
Mhm.
2 to
For
4?
Cassie
Cassie?
Jones.
Sunday?
This is Super Bowl starts at like 5:30. So.
Does it?
I think.
It does start at 5:30.
What price,
We
what
looked it up the other day.
house, what price range is the house?
It's over 300.
Just turn the TV on.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Are you prepared for your consult?
What is that? What kind of- Like, I can't believe this. Did you hear that, Chris?
You're doing
She was offering it up until.
Are you sure? You sure?
What's that?
You sure about that?
I am positive. I think so.
Holiday.
I have to sell her on
It
it
is a
now.
holiday.
See, I gotta sell her on it now.
Yeah, an hour and a half to
Dang.
get out of there and get home and watch it or something.
That's okay.
I think.
Are you not a Chiefs?
Well, he's not been watching it.
He's only gonna do it if there's a TV in the house.
There's a theater, a home
Oh,
theater
gosh.
downstairs.
Even.
I've got that open house.
He's gonna stay there a little after.
No, I'll,
Gosh, I miss this.
This is the house right here.
let me get my
I
spectacles
see
on.
it's actually,
For the hours consultation, I'm not ready.
she's
So
got
I
it at
have all the
$3.95.
papers like ready, but it's in my car.
One second.
Like in your car that you don't have right now?
I don't think so.
I
I
thought
mean,
I
it's
saw it.
pretty,
All out again.
there's not a whole lot in there.
Sucks.
They might be. I haven't seen that. Yeah, it is big.
How many
I
papers
just
do you
wondered
have?
with that one picture that did show up, I
So
thought.
first I had to like
Yeah, you're right.
listing documents like buyers, issues.
The internet's slow down here.
Brokerage.
This would have been the first one,
And
but
then I
I'm
have
actually doing
the
one.
listing, like
See,
not the
there's
listing,
the home theater
a
downstairs.
buyer's steps and packet like that. And then I had like another sheet of like, she was
So I
I'm gonna
can
get
decided
these
she wanted to build right now.
It's literally loading.
Cassie,
Building
Cassandra
steps.
Jones.
on that
I'm
one
gonna,
sheet.
I'll
And then the other
I
one
saw her
was-
before we came down.
she
I
would,
poked her like this.
Oh, you did?
She said, "Don't call me there." I'll get with her on that,
Yeah.
That's about it.
or if you wanna let her know, or I'll let her
Shouldn't
know
take
or
too long.
whatever. Yeah, send her my,
Do you know the lady pretty well, or is it someone else?
Oh, I know her, pretty well, I guess.
I'm gonna ask Kaylee about it though.
I'm gonna see how this one goes, cause I'm sick of wasting time on her.
How long have you been
Did you used to work at Bass Pro?
So
No, it was,
years, no kidding.
she hit me up.
we had
And
no,
she wanted to buy a house, but she couldn't qualify, but then she later on.
HR people there, one of the people that basically direct everything.
I kinda hit her up again, like,
And she's retired. a couple of years
so
ago.
like,
So we sold her out. And then they went to somewhere else.
and then she like.
It's,
Oh, where did you do HR at?
I've been aiming to do
I
that.
never actually got into HR.
Oh, okay, okay.
Before I'll
She was
have.
talking about, maybe I should feel like, what do you think of that? I was
Food
like,
service areas and things like that, so.
I want you
My
to.
background was
show
like kind of restaurants.
I was like, tell you what, how about like, the steps and.
Yeah, selling equipment.
I think they're all like,
That's something
I'm
I'm
serious.
It's definitely.
Over the phone, she won't answer my phone calls, but she'll text me.
It's good. How long have you been over here again?
I got here in February, but they were just starting till March.
Yeah.
I called them probably 6 or 7 times.
although she'll say
Never
she's not my
once.
boss.
I
I mean, really,
Yeah,
she is my
You guys
boss.
are each other's.
That's been my biggest. Definitely.
It's tough whenever you do it.
Answer a phone call, like.
Soon enough though, there's just so much to do. and It's like.
Finally, well, like, when I-
Coordinator, she was
I
trans
you have
TC
to
also.
go to town.
Does she do the big?
This is another.
And actually dealing
She's the
with.
one that like makes these.
And he's like,
It's tough.
that's just ridiculous. He's like, just wait, they'll eventually sign it because they don't like to stand on.